Do you find that your guests who experience, let's say, a lodge in South Africa then get hooked and they're just like, I want to see all the lodges around the world and all the camps around the world? What's your like return customer rate? I'd love to know that.
It's quite high. It's quite high in two ways. It's quite high to the same property. We actually have
Oh.
quite a few guests that go back every year because they feel like part of the family. And then it's quite high in terms of like you'll travel and you'll meet guests who say, "Oh, I've been here, I've been here, I've been here." I'm like, "Wow, you're giving me a run for my money. You could come and work for us in the sales team. You've seen them all." There, I still think though that's probably we still have probably about 60% first time. It's the
Yeah.
wildlife experience is a bucket list. It's a once in a lifetime, and then they'll try something else next year's. Having Asia and South America, we're hoping to increase that ratio as well because then you give different experiences. Sossusvlei, Bhutan, and Vera Vera in Chile are more nature experience, not as much wildlife, but hiking volcanoes, mountain biking. Like it's a little bit more active. Trekking in
Mm,
Bhutan, more culture. Sossusvlei, dune bike riding. So more, I don't know what you call nature-based activities, not so much wildlife-based activities. Although there's wildlife everywhere, you just need a
hmm.
good guide to find it and interpret it for you because even in the desert, you can find the tiniest little golden mole, which is incredible to watch, like absolutely incredible, or some interesting reptiles or some amazing antelope. So you can find in Bhutan some incredible endangered birds, and if you're really lucky, a red panda, but it's not as common and it's not the reason people go. But they are all places that need to be conserved in some way. And I think that's the luxury we have. I think as a mainstream hotel, like a city hotel, it's possible you can do it, but it takes a lot of creative thinking to create that same connection with nature and your community in your region. But it's really possible. But in nature, it's like a stage
Yeah.
outside. It's beautiful.
And it's something to be said about the science around what happens to your own biological markers of stress, your own nervous system when you're actually like immersed in that nature. And what I really liked what you
Yeah,
said towards the beginning of the episode, Nicole, was the design really having an emphasis on sense of place. And I think sometimes that's where some of the bigger hotel chains miss the mark a little bit is
yeah.
it's just in stark contrast to where they are.
Hmm.
Like they got them, it looks modern, it looks beautiful, it looks lush, but
Yeah,
like the sense of culture and the sense of place is missing and being in the mountain or at the on the African plains or in Chile or you're going to Antarctica, which we'll
yeah,
talk about in a little bit. Like
yeah,
that is really important, an important piece of it. And that's a reason why travelers do book with me as an advisor is because I try to find those places
yeah.
that you're going to talk about for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think design that gives a smile on your face, like you think, oh, that's so clever. Or
Hmm.
look how they've used that local fabric and now it's in a light installation. Like
Yes, absolutely.
there's some really clever ways that the place is brought in, but
Mm.
it's for sure it's luxurious. The room is very comfortable and big. Everything that you want is there. So I guess it does. Is it going to be marble baths and gold taps? No. So if that, like you said before, if that's your definition of luxury, then maybe it's not for you. But it is the luxury of space and of connection and of clever design and thoughtful guiding, then there's a luxury in that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned Chile and Bhutan and some of the other places outside of Africa that you've expanded to. I know you recently just got back, like a couple days ago, just got back from
Yes.
Antarctica and Chile, which sounds, just sounds absolutely mind blowing. As a traveler, your own personal experience from the trip, what do you think your biggest takeaway was from that adventure, and what kind of like wildlife, nature experiences did you have along the way?
Yeah, well, this experience, I mean, just to put it in context, so we have a portfolio of our own properties and yachts, but we also tour operate. So we will also curate a package with product that is not our own. And this journey that I just came back from hosting was a masterclass. So we've created these small group journeys that are for the traveler that wants to just go a little bit deeper. with their travel. And the real joy of this journey was to travel with Chris Tompkins from Tompkins Conservation. So I'm not sure if you know Chris's story, but Chris and her deceased husband, Doug Tompkins, I think they were the largest land donation. They bought 20 million acres of pristine land in Chile and Argentina and have formed national parks and handed it back to government. Chris is still actually involved with Patagonia. So she was the first CEO of Patagonia for about 20 years, I think it was. She's still on their board. And Doug started North Face. So they were sort of the start of the outdoor adventure clothing. And then
Right.
in their 40s decided to change lanes and saw firsthand sort of what was happening on the climate. In fact, I think she uses the words, we were on the losing team. Like land, while, nature is just being consumed all over the place. And so even though theirs was a large chunk that they've kept protected, it is still not enough. And so now she has two organizations called Rewild in Chile and Rewild in Argentina, where they look to make the land she's conserved whole again, so bringing back species that have been lost. And so we traveled with her. So it was a masterclass with Chris. And so we went to Torres del Paine, we saw a puma conservation project, discussed the similarity between that project, what they're doing there, and what Tompkins is doing in some of their other projects in Chile and Argentina. We got to see the latest national park she's about to be promulgate, which is right at the bottom. It's the southernmost lighthouse in the world. So it was Cape Forward in Punta Arenas. And then we got to spend 2 weeks on a cork expedition ship to Antarctica with her, where we had very intentional conversations about the world. What's going to drive change? It was 3 weeks of being in the most glorious bubble in the world's most beautiful, toughest environment. Like, that place is brutal in terms of the extremes it gets to, but it's so fragile, like incredibly fragile. Like, we had to disinfect our shoes every time we went on land, before we went on land and after, because anything you take into that could, I mean, if there was an avian flu breakout, those penguins are gone, and then it goes from island to island. So I had the most incredible. We had a whale experience as we arrived after the Drake Passage. Like, we just got through the Drake Passage. The next morning, we were about to go out on Zodiacs, and they were supposed to have woken us at about 7:30. At 6 o'clock, the intercom goes off, and they call us all to see. They've come into a bay, and there's a whole lot of orcas and a whole lot of humpback whales, all gathered together but separately, and this interaction between them. The crew on the boat, the expedition crew, were like, we've never seen this behavior before. We're actually trying to work
Wow.
out what's going on. We were welcomed back to Ushuaia by, there must have been about 50 sei whale in the Beagle Channel as we went through. We could just see their blowholes going off because of it was cold and they're breathing, so it's like the condensation, you can see it from far. It looked like fireworks. It just was just like this, like blow, 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 like all over. So we had whales all the way through the journey, at the boat, playing with the boat, playing with the zodiacs, coming around us. Such curiosity. These huge, immense animals with such care. Like, they could flip you in a second with their tail, but they don't. They're just there. They're just curious, and you sit quietly and watch them, and they're the most magnificent creature that 100 years ago was nearly hunted to extinction.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yet, they treat us with such grace. It's quite a, I don't know, for me that was quite a humbling lesson from nature, even for ourselves.